Speaking of Brucey things, Steve Bruce is back in business.
Yeah.
Pete Donaldson, you must be delighted.
We leading with this, are we?
It's the start. This is the start of the international break, and a ball hasn't been kicked.
Yeah, League One Blackpool. It seems weird to say it, but has Steve Bruce finally found a club that's beneath him slightly at this point?
Oh, hey.
He's a
Blackpool
championship
fans.
manager, isn't he? He's like the quintessential championship journeyman.
Well, he was about to be Jamaican manager, wasn't
He
he?
was about to.
Steve McLaren got in there.
Stole in, didn't he? Yeah.
Blackpool's very much the Jamaica of the Northwest.
Yeah.
So it's a good fit.
Battle of the Steves.
I know he's got friends at the club, and I know Steve Bruce spends big at clubs, relatively speaking, to get really shitty results.
He didn't spend big at Newcastle, did he?
No, he spent as much as Mike. Maybe he met as much as Mike Ashley, but yeah, it's a weird situation, and I think he has friends in the club, but I do think this is a hell of an appointment for Blackpool.
I think he's got.
Can't even let him have a regular appointment, can he?
What
He's
do you
only
mean?
got this.
He's only got this because he's got friends.
His friends.
Because of his friends.
Just let the man be.
I love it. I absolutely love it.
Blackpool, is it?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
There's some interesting names in League One, manager-wise. I mean, obviously Darren Ferguson's with Peterborough, you know, son of Fergie. Nathan Jones.
Yep.
Yeah.
Who's kicking ass with Charlton, and if he isn't, how come he is?
Everyone's favourite.
Yeah, he is doing right. You've got Nigel Clough, of course. You can still find him. Nice to see.
How old is he now? He's about 70.
He's ageless, Nigel Clough, isn't he?
Yeah.
He's still.
He's always going to be someone's son, isn't he?
Aren't we all, Donaldson?
Aren't we all, Donaldson?
Your friend of mine, Gary Monk.
Gary Monk.
Nice. The Monkman.
There was a time when
Monkman come up.
there was a time, I think, on the show, and I'm not going to say who it was, because it probably would have been me, where I think there was a vacancy for the England manager.
Yeah.
And Gary Monk's name may have been mentioned.
Look, you can get lucky, can't you?
You can
get lucky.
You can get monkey.
You can, and then of course Steve Evans, lest we forget.
Oh wow!
Is there? So
What a rogues gallery!
And
Gary
is.
Monk.
What a terrible night out.
Oh, it's an absolute stinker.
Intense bell ends.
God,
I don't know. It's
Jim. If they were all going to watch some comedy.
Oh,
Yeah, would you want them in the front row?
no, you don't want them at anything where they have to listen. Sure.
No, well,
who are you?
It's more the type of act they might see.
Sure. Who you clustering with on that night out?
That's true. Probably Darren and asking about his dad.
Sure.
Or Nigel. I mean, you got some good options there, I
You
suppose.
do. You have the worst hangover by hanging out with Nathan Jones, but that's absolutely what I'm doing.
I think I'd go with Jones.
See him in the
I
wild.
think I'd go
Evans
with
would
Jones.
turn up thinking it was a stag do and he'd be dressed as Roy Chubby Brown.
Yeah, that's... yes.
He's very Chubby Brown-esque, isn't he?
By accident, though.
By accident. Yeah, exactly.
Just like what he
that,
threw on
like
from
that
the
bloke
wardrobe.
in the train station who's getting told off by the police who looked like Hulk Hogan.
Yes. Yeah, Evans is...
He said you were in fancy dress. I'll give you a loud drop.
Evans is the last one I'm choosing.
Right, yes, yeah, by far.
Yep.
Yeah. For some reason, he looks like a town crier, but he just cries awful things.
Yeah, it's a... this is nice. It's a bit oldie, but Gordon, get that megaphone away from it.
Town cry that lies. Like this
Town
kind of
liar.
Town liar.
medieval fake news.
Yeah, that's true. Well, Steve Bruce is in among that rabble. He signed a 2-year contract. Blackpool owner Simon Sadler said, "I'm confident that Steve's experience and leadership qualities will be a tremendous asset for Blackpool. His organised approach, coupled with his desire to build a hard-working and entertaining side, is a large part of what attracted us to him." Peter, there's a word in there that you may have issue with. Entertaining.
Attractive, entertaining, 2-year contract. There's a lot of stuff in this news story I find objectionable, to be honest. But
Are you still not over it, are you?
I'm still not over it.
Why
no.
can't that... Look, surely the sports washing extends to Steve Bruce. They've washed all that away.
Oh, what do you mean? Like, as in...
As in the memory of Bruce, he's gone now. Look.
Yeah.
Yeah. It hasn't worked for me.
You've been watching Bruno
Guimaraes.
Guimaraes and the boys.
Yeah, I mean, it's the last. In many ways, it's the last time that Newcastle weren't tainted. So that's the farewell kiss from Steve Bruce, really, isn't it? That's when I look back and sort of go, well, my kind of footballing supporting career is compromised now, isn't it?
Yeah, the
I
good
can't
old
enjoy
days.
it. And the good old days, the last bit of the good old days involved Steve Bruce going, well, if I get fired, I don't care because I'm happy.
Yeah.
Inside.
Oh, dear. Well, we wish him all the best, do we?
Yeah.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well,
He's a championship manager.
I just
It'll be
wasn't sure.
For the people who support Blackburn and Blackpool, the people who support Blackpool, it's a good appointment. But I just think he does need a little bit of he needs resources that I don't think Blackpool have from what I've read. So yeah.
Do you think though that not getting the Jamaica job, he thought, what's the next best thing? Blackpool's on, by the sea.
Beach. Maybe he's only been looking at like
brochures.
Jobs with
maybe he's just
jobs with access to the beach.
Maybe he's had a few months off. He's invested in a metal detector. He's only considering
that is it, isn't it?
The beachside jobs. That's why he wanted Jamaica.
True. Rooney at Plymouth. It's like he's already been seen in the karaoke bars. That's what we know. What he's doing there.
He's heard from Neil Warnock that metal detecting is actually really fun.
Yeah, and that's what he's going to be doing in Blackpool. Lovely. Well, good luck to him.
If he finds some money as well, then that'll be useful, wouldn't it? Because you're saying he needs funds.
Very true.
The blue not too.
Former Blackpool manager Ian Holloway, of course, it wasn't that long ago. He was trying to link Bruce to the Manchester United job, saying it was a disgrace that he didn't get it. It seems unlikely now that he'll go there in his career. But that's where we go now. Erik ten Hag, of course, is the man in charge at the time of recording. He's been given the full backing of the Manchester United hierarchy, often a kiss of death, of course. But they've all come out strongly in favour of old Erik. In an interview recorded shortly before the Liverpool game, Chief Executive Omar Barada and Sporting Director Dan Ashworth confirmed that even in the event of a heavy defeat, Ten Hag still had their support. I love that.
What are you worried about then?
An expected heavy defeat by the sounds of things.
I mean, in that interview, okay, clearly if they're asked, what if he gets gubbed tomorrow or whenever the interview was? No, he's still there. The fact that that's a relevant question.
Yes.
We just want to cover all bases.
Yeah, if this is true by tomorrow, he will still be in a job. Be dangling on by a little feather, feathery rope.
Well, also the chief exec and sporting director just mentioned. They said that that Ten Hag keeping his job was a decision made before they came.
Yeah,
and then quickly added, "But we are happy with it." Though.
But Dan Ashworth isn't involved in the club in that way.
But he would have sway. He would have sway.
Yeah,
I mean, sporting director, in
his
theory,
opinion matters, doesn't it?
Yeah, and in theory, a sporting director should outlast a manager.
Yeah,
sporting directors should be a longer appointment, all being well. So it will have an opinion. If he can't work with the manager, they don't get on, they don't see eye to eye, they've got completely different philosophies. It's not going to work. Whereas he says he's been enjoying working with Erik ten Hag. It's just a strange situation. I mean, clearly, from where I'm sitting, I think that they are waiting for somebody who wants the job. And they can they don't want to just sack Ten Hag and go, right, who are we looking for? We've got an international break now and it's all a bit of a mess.
Yeah.
No, I think...
Because he can't be long in that job, really.
I think they've come in and not wanting to look too knee-jerk, so they've kept Ten Hag in. And a lot of people are taking the piss out of him for talking about how he's won 2 cups and etc. But he has won 2 cups, and that has to count for something, right? So they've backed him, so they can't get rid of him immediately, can they? Because that looks very very knee jerk to do something like this now. You've got Ruud van Nistelrooy just sat there waiting, presumably ready to take over in the interim term.
Do you think that's what Van Nistelrooy's going to do?
I think he's certainly an option there, isn't he? Because he has managed before as well. He's managed PSV as well. It's not it's not like he's like.
I mean, it's a hell of a way in.
I think he's a ready-made situation if they can't get who they want immediately and things become untenable.
I mean, hasn't he been brought in to basically say to Marcus Rashford and co, that's where the goal is? Yeah,
essentially.
Yeah. Do you not think that's a very Man United move, though? He gets a couple of landmark results under his belt, and then you give him it to the end of the season. Then they give him another season, and then it just goes all a bit
potentially
silly.
But I do think there is a certain degree of alarmism around these 2 results where we're all, because we've seen this part of the cycle before at Man United a lot of times, everyone's kind of looking ahead and assuming the worst. Now, this is a really good Liverpool team. Obviously, they didn't really lay a glove on them. They made a couple of chances, sure, but they were well beaten and comfortably so.
You're sticking up for Erik.
Well, I don't think it's as bad as all that just yet, purely because we have to realistically assess the fact that we've only seen 3 games. And De Ligt has come in, he's a very good player, as we know. Xerxes shown a bit of potential. Lenny Yoro will come in. Ugarte fits what they need. And again, I feel like I myself have made the case for a new Man United regime and a new Man United squad in this situation many times before, and it's gone back to type essentially. But I don't know if it's as terrible as all that yet, is it?
I'll tell you now, Jim. They are currently on course for another 8th place finish.
After 3 games?
Yes.
Is that statistically...
Absolutely right. That is what they're on for. I said as soon as they started playing against Fulham, same old. There's nothing different.
Would you not give... I mean, 6th of October is probably their sternest test in the next 2 months, Villa.
After they've been beaten 3-0 by Liverpool.
Everywhere else, it's your Southamptons, your Barnsleys, your Twenties, and they'll hustle their way through those fixtures. Surely, Blackpools.
I want to see them hustle their way past Barnsley.
Okay, I'm surprised you're suggesting that you're basically saying give them a bit more time.
I'm not saying that they're going to contend for the league or anything this season
because they're not.
No, of course they're not. But I don't think it's
as bad
as it's being made.
I agree.
So you kind of no, but I think what you're doing is you've settled into the idea that Manchester United are the 7th or 8th best team in the Premier League, and you're perfectly happy with that.
Yeah,
and you're just going, yeah. Well, what's wrong with that?
I like this. What you were worried about?
Yeah, just more.
If you don't shut up, they might sack him.
If you were at Old Trafford, then what do we want? You'd shout more of the same.
Yeah,
that's what you'd do. So Ten Hag. Fair enough, he won the FA Cup. Absolutely great performance. It's a one-off, though, really, that result. Sure. Bearing in mind what happened in the semi-final against Coventry, I find it...
Look, we all know that this is going to end in the same way. I just think you might have a month or so longer than you do, by the sound of it.
No, I agree, but they just need to find somebody.
Yeah, I mean, surely to spend big on those players and not really give him the time to let them bed in would be silly, right?
But now with the sporting director, though, yes, he's spending, but actually that's the whole point of a sporting director, is to try and have some sort of joined up thinking where it doesn't matter which manager comes in. It's like, this is how we want to play. These are the types of players we want. Look, he's taken a lot of fire for basically keeping them playing Casemiro and the situation they're not getting a tune out of it. Jamie Carragher has been very critical, as have a lot of people. Rio Ferdinand's kind of he seems to be quite annoyed with Carragher and has done for a little while about Casemiro. You're disrespecting a fine player and all the rest of it. And it's kind of like, well...
He's kind of disrespecting his own legacy.
Yeah, I was going to say, Carragher's just pointing out what's going on.
I think there's a great thing happening with Jamie Carragher at the moment, which is he, like all of us, lived through the tyranny of Man United's dominant years. Yeah. And now he's just having the time of his life. Doesn't even have to work hard to point out what's wrong. No, he just literally say Casemiro and everyone knows what you mean.
Yeah, well, didn't he say...
He's loving it.
He said, you should leave the football before the football leaves you.
Yeah, which is,
No, it's not a perfect sentence, but we get the picture.
No, I think it's succinctly explained. But I think, as you say, it's Carragher's job, isn't it?
Yeah.
And it's like, I understand Rio Ferdinand sort of wanting to protect somebody like Casemiro because you've got an emotional attachment to your own club. But I mean, Carragher has to point out what's gone wrong, and when it's as obvious as that, it's not really even criticism, is it? It's just assessment.
Well, yeah, he's saying actually that it's quite sad, as we were on Monday.
Yeah,
this brilliant player, one of Europe's best midfielders, and when he was at Real Madrid in that wonderful midfield setup they had, and you say, I don't like to see this. It's like, oh, but you're disrespecting the player because of what he did. No, we're remembering what he did, and that's why it's such a shame. I mean, Casemiro's wife responded this by sharing a picture of all of Casemiro's trophies, which there are an awful lot. A lot. And it's like, oh yeah, he did play for Real Madrid, didn't he?
I think part of it as well is the way Man United play, where there's a lot of expectation on him to do a lot of stuff in the way that perhaps wasn't at Madrid, and the system isn't helping him. But at the same time, if he's the one dispossessed
but that's
when it leads to a goal...
if he's in the centre of the pitch... with his arms up going, come on, give me something, or you can see him running around like a madman, tackling everything, and it's just like, come on, I can't tackle the fourth guy, the fifth guy, you've got to be there. That's not how it's playing out.
I think for Rio, it's twofold, really. He left for QPR when he felt that he needed a step down to a certain extent, and also... remember when he got refused a boxing licence? Do you remember when he tried to be a boxer and the governing body just went, don't be silly, we're not giving you a boxing licence, which they should do more and more, I think, nowadays.
Do you think he's still angry? Was Jamie Carragher on the ball?
I think he's just said, let him have a go. I know he's old and he doesn't look like he's having a nice time, but let him have a go.
Yeah, he's 32 though. He's not that old.
No, he's not that old. He's not that old.
But this wasn't like a YouTuber boxing thing though, was it? This was
it's proper boxing.
Professional. Like,
let me have a go.
Don't do that.
Do it.
Yeah, you don't need to. Wayne Rooney's the only English footballer I can think of. You think, yeah, maybe. But then after that business
he's Butterbean. He's the Butterbean.
He is. But after that business with Phil Barsley, I think actually maybe best not.
Get Barsley in.
Maybe Barsley's the man, or maybe it was just a lucky punch. So we were speaking about Ten Hag and maybe the FA Cup prolonging his time at Manchester United and all that. Of course, Louis van Gaal didn't have such luck, did he? Won the FA Cup and pretty much knew he was going before the champagne
The football
was
left
sipped.
him.
Yeah, exactly. They did indeed. And Van Gaal's a funny figure, isn't he, when at Old Trafford, because he's still
Put it mildly.
Yeah, well, he's still spoken about, and he still talks about his time at Manchester United, and it's almost like he feels like there's unfinished business, or certainly he was unfairly dismissed and all that, as one might think if you won the FA Cup. But some of his former players at Manchester United, they still have big opinions on him, and Angel Di Maria has been the latest one. He was on ESPN in Argentina and said, after being asked who's the worst manager you've ever played for, and he said, the worst manager is Van Gaal, you can be sure of that. In case you had any doubt, I'll clear that up for you right now. And he really stuck the boot in.
Which one of them can't get over it more?
Yeah, well, exactly.
Brilliant.
But Van Gaal, not that long ago, was saying, I don't know what Di Maria's problem is. I played him in all the attacking positions. He didn't convince me in any of them. He just couldn't basically keep up with the cut and thrust of the Premier League.
Yeah.
I just love these men carry on. It's like, it was 8 years ago or whatever.
It's an interesting thing, though, because they're essentially both like a very decorated manager, a very decorated player, where they had this one blip in their career and each blames the other for it.
Sure. I'm a World Cup winner. I won a Champions League. I won this. Back and forth, yeah.
Do you want an update on Van Gaal's rather, sadly, quite aggressive cancer? I don't want to bring the tone down, but it's quite interesting. He's been battling it for a few years now, and he says, after 3 years of radiation therapy, kidney infections, prostate surgery, I can finally manage it. I can pee naturally again, which is important, but I can't make love anymore, and that's a problem. You just love to hear
he's just
a man who's just
so honest.
God could not take that man from us. He wouldn't fucking dare. He doesn't need that. He doesn't need that up there. You stay right there.
Oh, blimey.
Good on him.
He's 1 in a billion.
1 in a billion.
1 in a billion.
Yeah.
Right, we move on to Leicester City, who have won an appeal against an alleged breach of Premier League profit and sustainability rules. The old PLP and SR. The PSR.
The PSR.
I always want to say FFP. PSR. An independent panel found the Premier League did not have the jurisdiction to punish the club. This is because Leicester were relegated to the Championship at the end of the period in question, meaning they were no longer governed by Premier League rules.
That is unbelievable.
Proper state line stuff, innit?
It is state line stuff.
Crouch County lines, boy. You can't
exactly.
get them.
Right, we're going to do you because we know what you've been up to. Here's our Premier League membership card, and now we'll do our accounts.
Yeah.
That is it.
It's like the fucking purge, isn't it? 24 hours to do whatever you want.
It's shocking, isn't it? So this is how it works. So under PSR rules, clubs cannot lose more than 105 million over a 3-season period. I'm sure that people are aware of this, but just in case you're not, the Premier League charges related to the 3-year period with regards to Leicester went up to the end of the 2022-23 season, which of course they were relegated to the Championship at the end of that season, and then they filed their accounts once they'd ceased being a Premier League team. That's how they weren't punished.
There are so many loopholes in all of the Premier League rules that only the Premier League cannot seem to identify.
It's stunning, isn't it?
Is there a single lawyer that works for the Premier League?
Well, but Leicester didn't sort of have a little wry smile or a bit like unlucks, which they were absolutely.
Yeah, I got your email, mate. Yeah. I read it.
They were like, this is justice has been done and all this kind of stuff, and it's absolutely incredible, really. The Premier League was said to be surprised and disappointed, and they said if the appeal board is correct, its decision will have created a situation where any club exceeding the PSR threshold could avoid accountability in these specific circumstances. This is clearly not the intention of the rules. Now, I don't think teams are going to we'll spend what we want and then get relegated.
We have a situation later in the season where Chelsea are really obviously throwing games. Like, there's a big one coming down the road. They have closed some of those loopholes. Pile in, boys.
Exactly. They don't win a game from November to May.
Yeah. We'll take a shit season. It's worth it. It's still worth it.
Yeah, exactly. Don't worry, lads. You're all getting paid. It's fine. You just got to trust us on this. So that seems to be. I mean, look, I understand that the Premier League is saying, this is not basically the intention of the rules or the spirit of the rules.
The spirit of the rules. That's legally.
Well, they didn't say that, to be fair, but that is ultimately.
That's not fair.
Yeah, but
I was waiting to capture E.T., but then he started flying. Yeah, but it sucks, man.
Yeah, but it's
I was out here all day waiting for fucking E.T., and then he starts flying in his bike.
Sorry, who's
Have
this
you been to bed?
I'm just buoyed by starting the show with Steve Bruce, lads. I'm so sorry.
Who's this character from ET that I don't remember?
I'm a sheriff who's on the county line, and I'm waiting to capture the ET little alien guy for the FBI. And then he starts, and I think I'm going to get him. And I'm waiting for him with my guns.
Every American impression you do is not that far from Bernie Sanders.
And then he started flying.
And then he was away.
No. That's Jurassic Park.
And then they all chanted, he's going home.
Yeah.
Look, I
think this is brilliant.
Yeah, I do.
More of this.
I mean, like...
Steer into the slide. Get yourself in the champ.
Part of me does find that quite funny, that the Premier League have been done so blatantly.
Embassy rules.
Why can't they ever enforce their own rules?
Yeah, that's why the Championship is the best league in the world. It's like like an offshore kind of illegal radio station.
You are right. They've escaped to the Championship embassy and gone. Stood on the balcony, stuck their V's up at them and gone.
We drive on the right here.
Yeah. And we know in a year's time you can't arrest us because that's how these weird rules work. So we'll see you later, suckers. So that's how it's gone. Incredible, really. I mean, the loophole is normally one that a loophole is obviously what people think, oh yeah, we'll do that, that's good. I mean, if the loophole is relegation after the Thursday, I mean, that would be incredible planning.
I think by the league rules, every year do you have to re-sign yourself to the league effectively? Presumably it's only a 1-year contract each season, I suppose.
No, but you're in you don't have to negotiate your position. If
it's not about negotiating position, it's just literally sort of saying, it's a membership. So I imagine
we're still interested in playing.
I imagine this loophole will be closed very quickly.
Yes.
AKA next season.
Yeah, I mean, it's surprising, isn't it, when a loophole is so blatant like that? But I mean, to be fair, it was only on appeal they won.
Yeah.
So the Premier League obviously thought, it was good enough, and that was that. But they're very disappointed in the independent
Imagine
panel.
how excited the lawyers were for
I bet they cannot believe it's worked.
Yeah,
I bet they cannot believe it.
We could try the fuck you manoeuvre.
Yeah. Who's on the independent panel? It's Rebecca Vardy. It's Claridge. It's Matt Elliott.
Jamie Vardy.
I don't know. So I suppose
Kasabian are on there.
I suppose. Well done, Leicester.
Yeah. It's silly.
It is very, very silly.
Bit of fun, isn't it? They're not going to bother the upper echelon, so nobody's asked.
No.
Yeah, there is that element to it, isn't there?
We thought that before. Coming up in the second half, Cristiano Ronaldo tells us that he should still be starting for Portugal. We look ahead to Scotland's Nations League A campaign and remember the infamous international career of Luis Suarez. See you in a moment.
Chaps.
Welcome back to the Football Ramble, everybody. A little bit of John McGinn there to get us all Scottish and going for their game against Poland tomorrow evening at 7:45. Their first ever Nations League A campaign. It's the tournament that is where dreams are made of.
Absolutely, massively. It's probably the biggest tournament of the year for them, right? As it is for all of us.
Of the year?
Yeah.
Okay. John McGinn said he's still not over the pain of getting knocked out of the Euros. Obviously in the group stages. He said, you definitely don't park these feelings. I still think about getting relegated at St Mirren. What could I have changed? What could you do better? These things never leave you.
I think knocked out of the Euros is not strong enough the way they performed, one might suggest. So I can imagine it would sort of hang around the air a little bit.
And the relegation with St Mirren, Peter?
And the relegation with St Mirren as
What do you think of that? They deserved it.
I don't recall it, but I'm sure they were awful.
Well, according to John Carver, Scotland's aim is to survive in the group. We don't want John suffering another relegation.
No,
crying out loud.
Point, yeah.
Which, of course, England suffered last time around. Hence, they're in Nations League B. So everyone's got to get behind Scotland because they are representing the UK, of course, in that Nations League A campaign, which is something they'll do with pride. But
where is the kind of Nations League? How gilded is that lily in 2024, Marcus? There was so much great hope for this tournament, and even I got sucked into the excitement, but then the fixture congestion beat out of me a little bit.
Yeah, you've got to be careful with the fixture congestion. It can do that to you. I think with the Nations League, it captured the imagination a bit for us England fans, because after the 2018 World Cup, people were feeling good about the team. And then, of course, some of the results in that early campaign, and the beating Spain, and then the beating Croatia at home with a couple of very late goals, and you get into that little playoff thing where you're like, it's the summer, It's a knockout tournament. We're playing Netherlands as our big team. This not got we're not nervy like the Euros or the World Cup might be. This feels quite good. I wouldn't mind winning this because England then go out and everyone goes, piss off, I didn't want to win it anyway.
I think even that is a lot more excitement than most people felt.
Do you think?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay.
I think there's surely an element, but you are the King England fan in many ways
I'm
in
the
terms
guy.
of how much you care. But I think you do see the Nations League get criticised a lot. It's just important to remember what it's replaced, right? It's competitive football. All right, it's competitive football in the way that like the Community Shield is, but it's the friendlies it replaced were so kind of
It's better than friendlies.
so mind numbing, and you really learned much from them, and they really felt like a chore.
Yeah, I think when you get those kind of marquee friendlies with when England would try and get a big team turn up, it was, this is very nice, and it wasn't really play. Whereas I think you're absolutely right, Jim. The Nations League is definitely better than the friendlies. How much better? That's up to you, but it's definitely better. But Scotland are in with Portugal, Poland, and Croatia, so
Which is great, right? It's a proper
decent
test.
Teams, yeah.
It is a proper test, yeah, exactly. And there's been a number of changes to the Scotland squad since the Euros. Callum McGregor has retired from international football. Nathan Patterson and Aaron Hickey are unavailable due to
Hickey's
injury.
going to miss the season apparently.
Yeah, that's a bad one.
Real shame.
It is. It really is. And Jack Hendry was left out. But how about this though? Vancouver.
I believe in Jack Hendry.
What are you referencing there?
That's the wrestling song.
Just do it a
But every
song.
time I hear Jack Hendry, I just hear
Is there a wrestler called Jack Hendry?
Joe Henry.
Okay.
Scottish though.
Is he?
Yes.
Is Roddy Piper still going?
He's not kicking a ball. He was
Rowdy Roddy Piper.
very non-Scottish.
Hey, I'm Scottish. Hey, Mark. Well, in North America, Peter,
yes.
there's a chap called Ryan Gould who plays for Vancouver Whitecaps, and he's the blooming captain of the Whitecaps. I'll have you know.
Yeah.
He's earned his first Scotland call-up in 10 years. He got one when he was a teenager, but he didn't actually play. So they've gone
that's
back.
nice. I like
they've gone
that.
back to him. Yeah.
I like it when managers just sort of take a view askew of their squad and sort of play about a bit.
Yes,
our celebrated Premier League Chilean.
Yeah, yes, indeed. I quite like what Steve Clarke said about him. He said he has chosen a different path in his career, left Scotland as a young man, and on a roundabout journey ended up in Vancouver, where he's been one of the best players and one of the most valuable players. But I did kind of like that. He's a bit different to us. He took a different path. He left the homeland, but still he's done okay. So we're going to bring him back and see if we
Gerard
can...
Butler, isn't it?
Yeah.
A little bit Butler.
Playing for keeps as Gerard Butler.
Oh, don't talk about that bloody film. So, yes, but there are one or two other fresh faces as well. New York Red Bulls' Lewis Morgan's in. Hey, they're really sort of expanding the search, I feel, here. Which
I
is
like
quite,
it.
Which is quite exciting as well. Middlesbrough's Tommy Conway. So lovely old job. I will be back tomorrow alongside Luke Moore to check in with all the latest news from the England camp, by the way, ahead of their own Nations League campaign. It may only be Nations League B, but we've got a new manager in the form of Lee Carsley, who comes up against his old side, the Republic of Ireland. So a little bit of narrative. I do stress little. But where there's narrative, there's some chat.
I think in that fixture, the least narrative, the better.
Well, that's why I'm just focusing it on Carsley.
Okie dokie.
Yes.
Lovely old job.
All agreed there. In other international news, Portugal play Croatia tomorrow night, also in Scotland's group, as we said. Cristiano Ronaldo is still looking to hold on to his place in the Portugal starting lineup. He said, "In my mind, I'm always a starter." And Diego Jota's just like, would you just
go away?
Would the manager just please look at what I've done for Liverpool? Look at him, for crying out bloody loud. Ronaldo also discussed his plans to retire from international football because at some point in the next 20 years he's surely going to do it.
Well, it's kind of like if you have to. It's obviously closer to the end than the start of his career.
You would think so
on both sides. You do get to have two goodbyes, don't you? In many ways. And you know for a fact he'll take that opportunity. He will retire from international football. We'll have 2 weeks of mourning, and then he will retire from club football 2 weeks after that, I think.
Do you think he'll do it all as one?
I think no, he'll spread it out, but close enough so he can just keep that momentum going.
Oh, so yeah,
The grand farewell tour.
Yeah.
yeah. So you
Before
wouldn't
it becomes some sort of horrible toxic influence.
Yes.
becomes. But yeah, so you don't think he would maybe play a season or two and then
No, I think it'll just be like, oh, I like that feeling.
I think surely the government have to step in at some point.
Too big to fail, Cristiano Ronaldo.
Yeah. Well, he said of that retirement from international football, when the time comes, I'll move on. It won't be a difficult decision to make. If I feel I'm no longer contributing anything, I'll be the first to leave. And there lies the problem.
Can I refer you to the previous quote? In my mind, I'm always a starter.
Always.
Same interview.
Yeah, right, exactly, yeah. So we've got him for a long time, everybody, still, which is fine by me, but I do feel sorry for Mr. Jota and any other Portuguese striker as well. Oh, dear. Right. Belgium, after their, I suppose you could call it disastrous Euros. I mean, you think about when the fans were kicking off and so on. Maybe not disastrous, but they're disappointing Euros. They're back, of course, in the UEFA Nations League. And in their group, they've got France, Israel and Italy. So a tricky one, it's fair to say, with the French being in there. But quite wonderfully, Amadou Onana arrived at the Belgium national team camp with an Andre is not even my name, mate T-shirt, which I don't know if it's to do with that journalist or me after last week's Jackson.
Oh yes, I remember now. Yeah,
we're all to blame. We're all
I really like Onana.
Got on the wrong side of him there, but yeah, we've enjoyed him already playing for Aston Villa in the Premier League this season. So more Nations League stuff for him. Ronald Koeman, tweeted yesterday, back in business with a Dutch flag, and I love it in training. A bit like, you remember when Roy Hodgson was coaching Palace, still when obviously into his 70s, and he would still go out wearing shorts and socks, and it was just lovely to see. That's what Koeman's gone for as well. He's got the top and he's got the shorts and the socks and the boots, as if at any moment he could go, I'll take this free kick, which is quite glorious. Well, he is refusing to pick Steven Bergwijn for the team after he moved to the Saudi Pro League. Koeman said, Steven Bergwijn goes to Saudi Arabia at age 26. It's clear that this has nothing to do with sportive ambition. His book with the Dutch national team is closed.
So
good on him.
Brilliantly direct.
Yeah.
As you'd expect.
Much like one of his free kicks. And yeah, it was also put to him that Jorginho Wijnaldum has moved out there and was picked in the last squad, and he was like, yeah, but it's different because of his age profile, etc., etc. He was just really, really clear on this, and I really respect it, to be honest.
Yeah.
I think
bit more
with the
honesty
Jordan
in this
Henderson
position.
situation, there was a lot of muddled nonsense around it, really. It was one of sort of Southgate's lower points where he said he didn't understand the kind of outrage about it. It's like, you do understand it, and you can just say that, and I like that.
But the outrage around
in terms of how Koeman has done
but
it.
Koeman's kept it with sport, with footballing issues. With Henderson, that's not what it was. And that's where Southgate, I think, was trying to say.
I would disagree on that, because I think he, at his age, dropping down to I mean, obviously Koeman and Southgate view this differently, but I think at his age, Henderson dropping and his declining quality dropping down a level was a really, really bad thing for him in a sporting sense. And obviously Koeman feels differently about Wijnaldum in that situation.
But that is what Southgate was trying to frame it as, though.
Sure.
With Henderson. But look, we talked about that. But I mean, it does. I mean, when he's saying about Wijnaldum, I think, what is he saying? He'll be fresher for the Dutch team or something. He's saying that if you're a bit older, then it doesn't really matter. He's got his experience.
I think he's just speaking to the desperation of an older footballer.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah. And also, it was kind of like one last hurrah, wasn't it?
Yeah, perhaps. I mean, I think that's more comparable to Henderson, but with Bergwijn at 26, and when we've spoken about players, we talked about Ivan Toney the other day.
Yeah,
you know? I mean,
is he going to improve there? Almost certainly not. In his peak years are going to be spent at a lower level.
Isn't it weird that in 2024 the competition is all about the drop in quality, and not as many people are sort of talking about the political aspects to it nowadays?
Well, this is how it happens, and it gets, for want of a better term, it gets boring, doesn't it? And people are tired of having the conversation. People are tired of having the arguments as well, and that is part of it, isn't it?
But again, though, Ronald Koeman, how much, do you want him to have that kind of statesman-like approach as Dutch national team? Maybe, I don't know what the culture is around that. No idea. But his main job is to pick the squad and the team, and he is going to do that on his
criteria.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I personally have, if he wanted to pick Bergwijn, it wouldn't bother me. But I understand from his point of view about perhaps the more the definite drop in quality and so on.
Part of it's the player, isn't it? I mean, he's not really lit up the national team.
Yeah, but we spoke when people were moving to China. It was I think it was Axel Witsel, the Belgian player. What on earth are you doing? Or was it Carrasco? Was another? I mean,
Yeah,
you start
Carrasco
with
went out there as
Oscar
well.
in Brazil, although maybe slightly different with Brazil. But again, like the sums of money. I mean, it is selling out in a sense, but
Well, it's prioritising. As Koeman's alluded to, it's prioritising money over sporting ambition, isn't it?
Yeah, it is indeed. It is indeed. Well, chaps, one man who will not be playing for his international team much longer is Luis Suarez. He's announced his retirement from international football.
Yeah. You could be forgiven for thinking that this happened some time ago already, but he's just been ploughing on, hasn't he?
I mean, he is a force of nature.
Yeah.
He's 37. He's played an awful lot of football at a very high level. All those distances that you have to travel from Europe to South America as well eventually
which
take a
gets
toll.
overlooked, I think. Doesn't
Yes,
it?
I mean even if he's in Miami, I don't know if it's a slightly shorter flight. Maybe it's half an hour. I have no idea.
Yeah.
But the fact is, it's still a distance to travel, and he's decided to hang up his boots. I thought we may see him at the North American World Cup in 2 years' time, but that he would
A bridge too far.
Yeah,
imagine,
he'd be a little bit older, and would he still have the bite left in him, Jim?
Yeah. Was it when he was at Gremio? I think he was talking about how he was starting to feel a lot of pain in his body and knew that he couldn't carry on for much longer because it would essentially risk his own mobility later in life.
Right.
And yet here he still is. So he's this isn't without great personal risk for him to be playing now.
But he just loves the game. I can't give it all up. I'll give that little bit up there. But I mean, look, an incredible player for Uruguay. Their second highest appearance maker up behind Diego Godin. Their top scorer, 69 goals in 142 internationals. He won the Copa America in 2011. The famous handball, of course, in South Africa, where they went to the semi-finals. So yeah, I mean he's. And we are just, we're mainly focusing on international football here because he's not retiring from football. Despite the goals and the performances, I mean, there's always been a bit of controversy. The biting for one.
Yeah, and I think the more insidious thing is obviously the thing we remember with Patrice Evra thing in 2011, where he was accused of racially abusing him. I think it's very rare to see a player actually banned for that amount of time. I think it was like 7 or 8 games, wasn't it? And that's obviously going to taint his legacy, I think, in England. And I mean, obviously, we're talking about international career. He's still playing at this moment in time, but that might change in the future.
Well, I mean,
never go on.
Yeah, it was. I mean, in the 2014 World Cup, of course, his goals put England out of the tournament in Brazil. And he said, it was a funny reaction he had when he said, oh, well, I think I've answered my critics in England. It's like, well, but you were crowned best player of the year.
Yeah,
like everyone,
it's
not about that at all. Because he was phenomenal for Liverpool.
Yeah.
With regards to playing football, it was like, you answer those critics by,
showing you've learned.
Indeed, yes, absolutely, yeah. But going back to his international career, he's been one of Uruguay's best ever players. Some would argue he's the best player.
Really, one of the most kind of impactful figures in the history of World Cups. For a lot of reasons. I mean, obviously, I think he got 7 goals at World Cups. Right. But if you look at the Chiellini situation, because of how memorable that is, and that's those are the things that stick in your mind with the World Cup, right? And also the Ghana situation as well.
Wow, that was it.
And there's a sort of Maradona level villainy there.
Yeah,
that very few, probably only really Maradona has hit otherwise.
Yeah,
and whether we'd be happy about that or not. Well, who cares really? That is just kind of part of that legacy.
Yeah. But he's retiring after a Paraguay match, which I think is probably the way you'd want to go.
Have a little nibble on Miggy.
Yeah. Last bite of the cherry.
Poor Miggy.
Oh, no. So, cheerio, Lewis, from the international footballing arena. You could argue it would be a poorer place without him, but it'll certainly be a safer place without him.
Correct.
Thank you for watching a clip from the Football Ramble podcast. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss an upload. A single upload. Don't miss out on the uploads. The uploads are important.